Hey, I'm gonna start out this vlog here. It is Sunday the 7th. I asked my patrons on Patreon what vlog idea I should do, and I had 3 choices, and everyone on there is so nice because one of the choices was just a chill vlog where I read my actual TBR. Can you even imagine? So that's what we're gonna do. Let me tell you what I'm currently reading. First is Homie by Dennis Smith. I'm like halfway through this. I'm listening along on audio, and I think I have like 30 minutes left maybe. And I'm loving it. It's so topical and poignant. This is gorgeous and I'm loving it, and I'm excited to continue. I am also reading Friday Black by Nana Kwame Ajibrenya. These are short stories. I'm on page 53. The whole thing is like 180 pages, so I think I'll get through it quickly. I was kind of reading this for like Buzzword Readathon, but that's just the first week of the month. I guess I still have tomorrow to finish this, but I'm just kind of taking my time with this and picking up stories here and there. These, similar to Homie, are pretty focused on the experience of being Black, and this one also comes with a lot of violence. Like, often it's, you know, like, no, it's a lot of violence, yeah. So know that this is like pretty graphic going into it, but I think it reminds me kind of Sorry to Bother You, which is a movie that's really good, just in the fact that it's like you don't expect it to go there and then it goes there, you know, but for good reason, and I think to really like put the symbolism into your brain. And then last night I started War Girls. I'm on chapter 9 or 8, which is page 59 in the physical book. I tried out my booklight last night, and the way that it angles when you attach it to the book, it just shines right into Otto's face when they're feeding, so that's probably not gonna work. I think I want to try out, I know Angel has one that like wraps around your neck and you can like point it. That might be a better option for me, but I managed to find this as an ebook as well on my library's lending app, so I just started reading it on ebook, and I'm actually really enjoying this. We're reading this for the Climate Fiction Book Club. There's also a discussion going on Discord right now, which is super interesting, and yeah, I'm really liking it. Right now there's kind of this underground camp of girls called the War Girls, and in Nigeria they are like hiding. This is really based on the like an actual war that happened, and I need to like understand the historical context a little bit more, so I'm gonna be reading more of that like along with this so that I can discuss it well in our live show, and so that I can like understand the context. But we have 2 sisters. They're like not blood related sisters, but who cares. One was, I think actually all of these girls were maybe refugees from this other group of people, and one of them, the younger sister's like, well, the older sister is like the badass, like takes care of the girls, like one of the oldest in the group, and the younger sister is highly skilled with like advanced tech, and she creates this little device called the accent that goes in her ear, and she can basically just like use it to like scan any tech around her, and like she can like hack things, and it's just really advanced tech, right? But because of that, she kind of gives up the location of their secret like encampment, and they're found and attacked, and so that's where we are. I don't think that's a spoiler because that happens in the first like 30 pages, but yeah, I'm actually really enjoying this, and it's reading really quickly. I was kind of intimidated by its size. It's only, oh, the physical book is like 400 and something pages, but the ebook's only like 300 and something pages, so. These are the books that I am currently reading. When I finish these, I'll show you what's next on my priority list. But right now, I've got soup in the crock pot. I just fed Otto, and I'm gonna take a motherfucking nap. I'm having a stuck day, you know what I mean? Like, I had this conference this morning from 9 to 1, and I just did it in my bed. Now it's almost 4 o'clock and I'm still in bed. I need to go outside, and I need to eat food. And I need to get unstuck. But I went down this rabbit hole of like Mennonite families with like 6 kids who live in like old farmhouses. I don't know. I finished Homie a couple days ago and it was really good. I think there was a lot more like rawness and emotion put into this collection than there was in Don't Call Us Dead. Not to say they weren't both super powerful, and I really loved this, but I do think I liked Don't Call Us Dead better. I actually do. But this was still really amazing. Like I said, the intersection of queerness and being Black, and just what that means in relation to many things, in relation to lovers and school and family and society and white people. A very intersectional collection that packs a fucking gut punch, and I am really grateful to have read this. I haven't made any progress in this, but I'm hoping to read a couple of these stories today. And War Girls, I need to update my bookmark, but I'm on chapter 19, so I'm this far into it, which is still not super far, but I am actually really enjoying it. And I think that I always think sometimes when I'm reading books, like eventually I want to do one of those videos. It's like, if you like this book, here's this book. And I do think that people who like The Poppy War will like this book. And The Poppy War is a lot more gruesome and is an adult fantasy, and this is YA. However, I think the way that they both have these kind of like morally ambiguous main characters who are young, dark-skinned girls, and also the history involved. There's like a lot of war as well. Like The Poppy War is all pretty much war strategy, and there's a lot of that in this as well. And maybe not as like technical as The Poppy War, but it also is based on like actual events from the past that I think are not well known, especially in Western societies. So yeah, I'm loving that aspect of this, and I think that that's really cool, and I am excited to keep reading it. I just have been sucked into YouTube, and it's not great. As a little update, I am almost done with War Girls. I made a really good chunk in it yesterday. Today's Thursday, by the way, and I just had like the second day of that conference thing. I just finished that. It's really good. It was through the human rights campaign. It's called Time to Thrive. It's just all about supporting queer youth. Yeah, War Girls I think is really good. I think this book is pretty underrated, actually. I mean, I'm gonna save a lot of my thoughts for the live show that I do with Sim and Will, but there's a lot going on in this book, and like, again, similar to The Poppy War, maybe it's just that I don't read a lot of like fantasy like this, but I guess just like war fantasy. But events move really quickly, and so do like time periods. Like, we start out and the two sisters are like both pretty young, but one sister, Ify, is a lot younger. And oh no, oh no, Oh no. Why are you yelling? Ugh. Oh, that's it. That's why. You're so good at communicating your needs. Sorry, I'm just obsessed with you. This baby's getting so large. Like, what? Who even are you? Are you my child? Did you get replaced by a changeling in the woods? I'm really enjoying this reading experience, and I ended up switching to audio for quite a big chunk of it while I was just like doing chores yesterday. And I think that's what got me through a large chunk of it, which has motivated me to continue to read a lot. And now it's like, we're almost toward the end, but another like high climactic moment has begun. While I was doing chores yesterday, I started out, I've just been feeling poetry this month. So I started out by listening to The Tradition by Jericho Brown. I don't know a lot about Jericho Brown, but I do follow him on Twitter. And I do think that you start to know a lot about people from Twitter. He is queer. I don't know if he was out as queer. I know that recently I saw a tweet where he said he is bisexual and like came out as bisexual. So I don't know if he was identifying as straight or as gay before that. So either way, this was a really good poetry collection about, I think, like Black boyhood, and he's also a parent and talks a lot about, you know, like the safety of his children, what it's like to raise Black kids and to have like the conversation. I just thought it was really good. It's super short, but he also of course reads his own poetry, and I liked it. I just put auto in this, and literally before I even had them all the way in it, passed out. It's amazing. So I'm going to try to do the dishes. Our hot water was like not working for a couple of days. So we have like a few days worth of dishes that need to be done, and it's also supposed to snow tonight. And because we live in the middle of nowhere, snow usually means power outages. So good thing about that is that it makes for a lot of reading time and like no distractions, because we don't have cell service out here, it's just Wi-Fi. And so obviously the Wi-Fi goes out, the power goes out. So I'll be able to read a lot, but you know, and we have like the wood stove is heating, but then we don't have water, obviously anything electric. We have to keep like the humidifier running for autos congestion, so, and I also have to work tomorrow and need Wi-Fi and internet for that, so that would be unfortunate if the power goes out, but we're preparing, and I'm going to try to get these dishes done so that we at least have a clean house. I only have 30 minutes left of my audiobook, so, for War Girls. So I'm just going to try to knock that out as I'm doing dishes, and then probably see if any of my other books in my TBR come as an audiobook, and if not, maybe find some more poetry to listen to. I don't know, it's just what I'm in the mood for. Wow, okay. I just finished War Girls, and y'all, this book is so underrated. I think only like 1 or 2 of my friends on Goodreads have read this book, and I'm so glad that we chose this. I was moderately concerned that it wouldn't be like climate fiction enough, you know? But the points that it made about both oil and how oil is in so many ways the basis of war and the effects of radiation. So good. I am very excited to talk about this book with Sim and Will. Also, the author's note at the end was really insightful, and as I was reading this, I knew that it pulled from inspiration of actual events in Nigeria, but I didn't really know what they were, and I also kind of thought that it was something that took place a long time ago. But this is actually based on the Biafran War, and that started in the 1960s, and Tochi Onyebuchi like directly pulled from his own mom's experience and his family's experience living through that. It pulled a lot of inspiration from numerous other wars from the 90s and early 2000s in Nigeria, where like forcing children into being soldiers was a big thing, and I think still is a thing. And just that historical context just makes it so powerful. I'm sorry. So yeah, both like the historical aspect of this. Do you need out? Okay. I think they're just pooping. Are you pooping? The historical element of this, as well as the climate statement, I guess. And just the story itself is great, and the characters are great, and the writing is great. I think this is a 5-star book for me. I'm not gonna put 5 stars on Goodreads because I don't want anyone to know my rating until the live show, unless you watch this. So, can I help you? Okay, I can help you. I am your parent. I can help you. That's my job. To bust you out of this thing. Hi. So I ended up starting When No One Is Watching. I found that as an audiobook as well. I also have it physically. And I'm page 130 or so. The audiobook's going by really fast. I think it's like 8 hours, but I'm listening to it at 2 times speed, so I'm like an hour and a half into it probably. And there's been like a couple like kind of weird parts, but it hasn't like gotten to the thriller part yet. And I have seen some reviews that say that the pacing is kind of weird of this book, so I don't know. It just hasn't like hit yet, you know? Which I feel like at page like 130 with most thrillers, there's usually like at least something thrilling by now. Still in the setup, but it's not, I don't know, I don't really know. I think it's just like setting up, obviously, like the themes of gentrification. It just hasn't done anything scary yet. Other than like her getting into like a car that said was her Uber and then like almost getting abducted. Like that was scary, but that happened pretty early on. And the guy driving was like an ex-cop. It was just being really weird. So there's definitely like the scary parts are like connected to racism and gentrification, which I knew that they would be, and which I think is really a cool premise. Cody's working on the climbing gym and it's upstairs, so I just keep having this vision of like things falling through the ceiling and killing me. I also had to buy diapers the other day from Target, and we're getting these diapers called Honest diapers, and they're great. They're like super absorbent. They're also really like clean and biodegradable, but we're doing like a mix of disposable and reusable diapers right now. I was buying those. I saw that Target was having a buy 2 get 1 free sale on books, so I got some books. And everything from Target like ships at different times, so I've only gotten one so far, and I got Outlawed by Anna North. I don't know I've just seen this book around a lot, and I know it's like a Western. I think it's queer, I don't know, but I wanted to read this for a vlog idea I have coming up. And apparently it's already on Reese's book club. It like just came out. Reese is so ahead of the game. Hi, good morning. It's very icy, snowy outside. That's fun. Today's Cody's birthday. That's fun. And I finished When No One Is Watching last night or this morning at 4 a.m. It was quite spooky. I do see like some critiques have been that the pacing was kind of weird. And I get that because it's pretty like slow burn until it's really going fast, you know, and then it gets wild. But I loved the ending, and I thought it was really fun, and also pretty fucking scary, especially if you have ever lived in a neighborhood that's been gentrified. After I finished that, I was still eating, so I started What We Lose by Z.Z. Clemens, I think. And this is a mood read, but the audiobook's only like 4 hours or something. And I think the book itself is like 200 pages. I've been downloading the ebooks and the audiobooks if my library has them both, and I just kind of switch back and forth. And the audiobooks usually put Otto to sleep, which is nice. So I'm reading this because it was recommended to me by Sunny, and on my last vlog, on my wrap up where I talked about Sharks in the Time of Saviors and liking sad, like kind of family dramas about that explore grief, and this one definitely does that. It's kind of reminding me of Transcendent Kingdom, but this one takes place in both the US and South Africa, and also deals with kind of like our main character being like a light-skinned black woman, and how her mom was like darker skinned but still I think mixed race, but was like super racist against dark-skinned black people. But her mom dies of cancer, and that's like in the beginning, and so it's kind of exploring that and some of her like past relationships and things like that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it in like a sad way. Why do I like sad shit? Anyway, I'm gonna go make us some birthday pancakes now. Wi-Fi's out. I had to go outside, as you can see on my glasses, because I had to send a tell my coworkers that my Wi-Fi's out, which is why I'm not at the meeting currently. But I get service if I like walk like 30 feet away from the barn, but then I'm standing in the falling ice. So anyway, I'm here to say that these are the best damn chips of my life, and that I think I'm gonna start The Sound of Stars. So internet's still out, but I did download a few audiobooks to potentially listen to. I thought they downloaded, but they didn't download all the way, so I have to go back out in this dark ice storm to download the things I do for audiobooks. out here trying to get some service. Our power went out. Fucking shit. Our power went out last night and we haven't had Wi-Fi or, you know, anything. And everything was so iced over, and now the sun is kind of starting to peek through, so it's melting from the tops of the trees, which are fucking huge. And literally like soccer ball sized ice chunks are falling. Terrifying. We've heard a lot of snapping branches, falling trees. Ah! So I guess I'm just gonna go inside and read, because I can't get service. Hey, don't mind my hair. Okay, it's Sunday. It's like 11 or something. And we haven't had Wi-Fi since Friday. And power since Friday night. So we're living it. Living the life. I am reading The Sound of Stars. And I'm on chapter 15. Look at this adorable bookmark that Julia sent me. That matches this book perfectly. I'm enjoying this immensely. This is so fun. It's also like pretty dark and has some heavier themes. But it's so good. The alien character in this, Morris, reminds me a lot of the prince from Saga. Kind of same vibes, like only came to Earth to like honor his father.
I love you.
Me too. Only came to Earth to honor his father and is like pretty conflicted about actually killing humans. Also just loves pop music and is like just super cute. And then our main character, Ellie, is so cool and just such a badass. And is like willing to die for her love of books, you know? I love that. It's like their little fucking adventure together, and it is so fun. And there are like definitely darker themes, like I said, like people getting like hanged out of apartment buildings, and it's like the idea of death in general is very interestingly looked at in this, because there are moments where multiple characters are just like, the future isn't great, so I'm just ready to die. And that kind of hits, you know, sometimes when I think about the future of our world. But this book also addresses climate change in the sense that basically these aliens invaded Earth because they wanted like a new vacation spot, but they chose Earth because the humans had like already destroyed it, or were destroying it and warming the planet. So they were like, we're gonna come fix this, and then it's gonna be our vacation spot. So, and they're also going to like house the bodies of humans. It's like a little, I feel like maybe a little bit influenced by Octavia Butler and some Dawn stuff. But yeah, essentially like the idea is that they get vaccinated with this vaccine that allows, basically like lets their consciousness leave their body, and then an alien host can come like live the Earth life in a human body. So, you know, I like that concept. I loved Dawn and I loved The Seep, where those were also like kind of concepts in there. And yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun with this. As far as everything else in my life goes. So when the power goes out, we do a few things. One is we sleep downstairs because it's just easier. So right now, like, our bed is on the floor. Everything's just like central, you know, but because of that, everything's also really dry. So I have like, we don't have our humidifier. So on the wood stove, I have the kettle and like a big pot of water going just to keep it like kind of moist in here for me and for Otto, because they get very like congested when it gets dry, which is why we have the humidifier. And they've had a couple of rough nights. We have not slept well. I've like put all of our food from the fridge in a box outside with some ice because it's cold. And yeah, other than that, we're just like cooking some stuff on the wood stove, but not really having very luxurious meals. Like, we just had tuna and crackers last night for dinner. And waiting for the power to come back on, though. Apparently we're supposed to get another like wave of ice tonight, so it might be that the power company just leaves, like we're not high priority, because we'll probably just lose power again. Okay, baby? So that's extremely not fun. So I'm just gonna do some cleaning. Oh, and my audiobooks, even though I downloaded them before we lost service, aren't working. They just keep saying playback error. It's so annoying. I really wanted to listen to Beasts of No Nation, but I might try to like walk around and find, I can almost put my hair in a little ponytail. I might try to walk around and find some service on the property. I'm officially in the grow out stage of my hair where I just have to wear a hat all the time for like probably like a month or two. This is really fucked up because this is the orchard, these are the peach trees. Sorry, these are the peach trees and the apple trees. And I don't think we're gonna be getting peaches this year. No service. No service, no how, nowhere. Update. Apparently the roads are decent, but we're getting another like wave of freezing rain, I think, soon. So before that happens, we are getting out of here, going to lower elevation, and we're going to go to Cody's mom's because she has power, and you can see how dry my lips are from not having the humidifier running. And it's just so dry with the wood stove, even though I've been putting pots and pots of water on it. And it just makes Otto super congested, so we're gonna go into town where we have service and moist air. As we're driving to Cody's mom's house, we pass Cody's mom, who is coming to check on us because we don't have power or anything or service. There's like no service in the entirety of the city. Like, we're here now and we just got here, and now Cody's mom also doesn't have power, so That's extremely fun. This is quite the time. They're trying to shovel the icy fucking driveway so we can walk into the house. Fun times. Really fun times. I just want to take a fucking shower. Yeah. Fucking America. Okay, so hi. I'm in Cody's little sister's room. Updates for you. Monday night, we came to Cody's mom's house. Right when we got here, she lost power, and we didn't have power until today, like a few hours ago. I think it's like 5 now or something. I just got on the internet for the first time since Friday, before 3 on Friday, and I realized not a lot happens in 3 days. Angel posted a new vlog, which I have watched. That's the only like content I've consumed since I have been back online. But other than that, really nothing is that exciting. There's a lesson in there, I'm sure. I did go through like my last 3 days of videos, and my watch list is significant, but y'all just put out really good content while I was gone, so at least I have something to look forward to. But I'm gonna try to space it out, you know, really cherish. Honestly, like, I've just gotten a lot of reading done, and it's been really great. Also, this like color palette, amazing. Okay, so I'm still reading We Will Not Cancel Us. I don't know how much I talked about this. It's, you know, I've experienced so much fucking environmental trauma in the last year that who even knows. But yeah, I've got a lot of sticky notes going on. I am on page 59 of 86 and actually really enjoying this. It's interesting, like, the things that this talks about. So it's like talking about the cancel culture, yes, but it's also talking about like how and why we are so eager to flock to this idea of canceling someone instead of like holding people accountable to change. And also like a part of this process that's just where there's like an assumption that someone needs to apologize after they've been called out, and how those apologies are very like PR sounding, and then the person just like disappears from the internet, and what that's actually doing when it's not really holding someone accountable, because it's not giving them space to learn from their mistake and grow and change. But it also makes a distinction within calling someone out, like how powerful it is to call someone out, and how the internet and like all of these methods of calling people out are starting to exist and become more of a thing to call people out who are abusing their power and actively harming people. And so I think that's also a really good distinction to make, because, you know, like, you hear like TERFs mostly, but just like also like I don't know, you hear of a lot of people saying like cancel culture, or being like, yeah, just talking about like getting canceled, when the idea of canceling, like, if you are, okay, for example, J.K. Rowling, I'm sorry to talk about it, but I'm just using her as an example, but there's a lot of like other people we could talk about, or even like Elon Musk, like all of these people who are white or white presenting and have a lot of power and a lot of influence, and because people are calling out their negative behavior, that's not canceling them, that's not even deplatforming them, because they still have a platform. They're still making a ton of money off of, you know, the franchise. There's a lot going on, and they are absolutely not like canceled. They're just being called out for their behavior. with, I think, called out not just for like doing something wrong or like making a mistake where the intention was good, or where they just didn't realize what they were doing, but more so like these people are actively harming others. So that was that's just, I think, a really interesting distinction. I also like that Adrienne Maree Brown really models this idea of having room for growth and change by talking about when she originally published the article or the blog post that like is a section of this, how when she originally published it, she also made a lot of mistakes and didn't know, and like needed to learn a lot of things. And so I liked that she's just modeling like giving space and improving and calling yourself out and talking about where you still need to learn and where you still need to grow, without making a lot of generalized statements. And the fact that when you grow on the internet, when you get more fame and recognition, that people, especially when you are like someone who is educating people, like she doesn't have, you know, she's not an academic, she's not a scientist, she's I mean, her like credentials, I guess, are more so being like a doula and a like social justice advocate and things like that, more community-based things, which is why her books are very community oriented, and I really like that about it. It's not an academic study, it's not just all of this like data compiled, you know, it's like a very genuine experience reading this. But she talks about as you gain fame, you're expected to know the answers to things that you don't know, and often people think that, you know, like put that pressure on themselves, and then they just speak generalized statements without actually being like an expert on that topic. And so giving yourself and giving others room to like not know things and also grow from things that you didn't know, and be able to like say when you thought you knew something and you didn't know something or as much about it as you thought you did, and just being really good at like talking about that. And I really appreciate that as well. There's also a line in this where she says we need to be really good at conflict, and there's so much conflict avoidance in our society, and that's when, you know, like those weak ass apologies on Twitter come out and then someone disappears from the internet or whatever it is. We're just really bad at conflict and we try to avoid it, and within avoid it we typically cause more harm. So I thought that was interesting. Obviously there are a lot of things that I have found interesting so far in here because I have a lot of tabs, and there's also a lot of resources that I want to check out, so she references a lot of things. One of the resources that I'm really interested to look at is How to Give a Good Apology by Mingus. And I know Mingus is another like blogger, kind of like community-oriented social justice worker, and she specifically advocates a lot for disability rights. And yeah, so I think that will be a good read, and I think something that hopefully, you know, some folks in the book community can consider reading. I think this is a very good book for people with a platform in the book community to read, because you know, at some point you're gonna make mistakes and you might get called out and you might feel like you're getting canceled or like there's a lot of people coming at you or subtweeting you or whatever, but without kind of the added nuance to whatever that conversation is, unless you're like actively harming someone, then yeah, maybe you should be deplatformed. But there's still nuance to every situation, you know. I've been kind of just like soaking it in and taking my time, because you would think I would read this really fast, but I've actually been reading this for a few days now, and just like reading little bits at a time and like taking it in and processing it before I pick it up again. Next, I finished The Sound of Stars. I left the dust jacket at home. I finished this. I have a lot of thoughts. I don't want to go into too much detail because this was my Patreon buddy read this month, and I do a very spoilery review of each book that we read for some of my patrons. And there's also a discussion in my Patreon Discord. So if you're interested in being involved in that, I would recommend checking out my Patreon. I will just say that I really liked the beginning of this, and then it went somewhere that I have mixed feelings about, or I just have feelings about. There's some things that I really don't like, some tropes that I really don't like, involving the romance. So yeah, it was enjoyable, and for the first half of the book I was like, this is a 5-star read, this is so good. And then it focused too heavily on the romance, I think. But anyway, also I do want to note in this, for anyone interested in reading it, which I do think you should read it, it is a good book. There are several Harry Potter references in this book. I think, you know, this was probably just written before we knew the extent of the transphobia. Sarah did tell me that a lot of authors are taking out references in future publications, so hopefully Alicia Dow does that as well. I would assume so. I mean, this is a very queer book. There are a number of non-binary and trans characters in this book, and yeah, also tons of pop culture references, specifically music, pop culture, and books. Had some of the alien elements reminded me of The Seep and also Dawn by Octavia Butler. So if you like those books and want kind of like a fun YA version that still hits a lot of deeper topics, I would recommend. I started Escaping Exodus. Don't mind this paperback copy is a mess, but I'm only on page 13 and I already really like it. Sorry, face. My video got cut off last time because my phone died. So I was talking about Escaping Exodus, which I am now on page 53 and really, really enjoying it. Did I mention this is like one of Angel's favorite books, maybe of all time, and she just read it this month as well. This is also the book club pick for the Black Prose Book Club, so I'm excited to go to their live show for this. But yeah, it's very weird and trippy. It follows two perspectives. One is Sasuke, and one is Adala. Yeah. And they basically live, they're kind of these like ethereal creatures. Like none of this is really based in, it's not like modeled off of like what humans look like or how we live. Like it's very, all of it is very alien, which I think is really cool. But they live like inside these beasts that they grow and they like harvest from and they live from. And they even like make clothing from its hide, but also like make clothing from other like parts of its body. And so it's a really interesting concept. Like they're kind of growing and like tending to this new beast because their old one died. And yeah, it's just interesting how it that in itself creates its own like kind of ecosystem. And also how there are, you know, how that has its own set of ethics and morals. The family dynamics are really cool in this too. There's like different family groups, I guess, that are like 10 people. But I think there's like 6 women and 3 men. And between all of them, they can only have 1 kid. I'm very tired. I need to eat food. Oh yeah, so it's Tuesday now and I have a lot of work to catch up on from Friday and yesterday, so I'm going to be working all day and we still don't have power at the barn, so we're just gonna stay here until we do have power there, power and Wi-Fi, because our Wi-Fi went out first, and it's like old country Wi-Fi, you know, so you never know when that's gonna turn on. There's still a lot of parts of like the Portland area that are out of power, and I'm sure that those are higher priority than us country folk. Hi, wow, look at this. So I am still reading Escaping Exodus. I'm like on page 180 something of like 300, so I'm more than halfway and really liking it. I'm really liking like the royal, like the family drama, but in a like a royal kind of way, you know. And I also really like, there are these characters who are the bone workers, and they're supposed to be just kind of like not the lowest of lowest caste, like in this hierarchical system of like those who work on the beast that they live in, but they're kind of just seen as like very blue collar, like gruffy, grungy. They all have like the sides of their head shaved and a bunch of scarification on their bodies, and they're also just these like really hard ass like butch women. And this system is matriarchal, right? So the women are just like seen in what we see as more masculine roles, and the men are very like they aren't allowed to do like hard labor or be in politics, or and they like have to keep themselves like very presentable and are like very soft. And so that's just like a fun thing to read about. I love that. I just love these like really intense butch bone workers who just like scar each other up all the time. It's pretty intense, but it's good. But I wanted to also say that in about 12 minutes, I'm going into a poetry workshop with Andrea Gibson, who is just kind of like a queer icon of poetry, and I absolutely loved them as a teenager, and they really inspired a lot of the poetry that I wrote, and I was really into performing and like going to open mics and poetry slams. Like that was my jam as a teenager, and I was obsessed with Andrea Gibson. And since then, I have not written a lot of poetry. I mean, I've written some, I've taken some poetry classes, and I've always kind of come back to it, but for the most part, it's not, I've never been like happy with my poetry ever since I like lost my teenage angst, you know? So I feel like I really need to reinvent like what poetry is to me, and it's always been my dream to publish a collection of poetry, so I'm hoping that this kind of kickstarts that and that I can get a burst of inspiration from this workshop. It's 4 Saturdays in a row starting today, and there's like at least 300 people in this workshop, so it's not going to be very like one-on-one or anything. I think it'll be more lecture-y, but that's fine. So I'm excited to get into it, and hopefully I can share a poem with y'all if I write something that is shareable.
Entire time, and hope all this stuff on the back end is working. See what you share. Feel free to be. Do we have it?
Okay, wow, that was like, that workshop did the trick, and there's 3 more of them. I am so excited. I have already written a lot of things. We had like prompts and 5 minutes to write them, and I'm already just like thinking about everything. Everything's opening up, flowing. So it's Andrea or Andrew Gibson's workshop, right? But also their partner Megan Valley is also a poet and also in the workshop. And so she also gave a lot of really sound advice. So some things I got from like the Q&A were, oh, someone asked about like writing poetry that you're afraid is going to hurt someone's feelings, and like not wanting to write it because you don't want them, because you don't feel like you can share it with them. And this was like a really nuanced conversation, because in a lot of ways it's like you should just write. Like there's an Anne Lamott quote that says, "You own everything that happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better." And both Andrea and Megan said like that was how they viewed that, or they like really lived by that like motto for a long time in their writing, and would just publish whatever. And then that ended up like hurting a lot of, like, for like Andrew, like their coming out story, but the way they wrote about their parents reacting to it didn't necessarily capture like the complexity of them as people. And so even when you're writing something, they said this thing that was just like, sometimes when you're able to write positives about people as well, that in itself highlights the darkness better. So fucking amazing. I also like, Megan has this theory that writer's block doesn't exist, which is something that I feel like I've been struggling with for the longest time, specifically regarding poetry, which is what I like really care about. Like I loved writing my first draft of the like fun YA novel in November, but truly like poetry has been something that I've always wanted to be such a big part of my life and my writing. And her thought is that writer's block doesn't exist, and it's just a fear about writing about something, or like being afraid to write something that sucks, and then just giving yourself space to write what sucks, and seeing poetry as like a muscle you need to exercise, or like a faucet in an old house you need to keep running for a while so the brown water goes out. Just the way they explained things were so symbolic and metaphorical in themselves, and like that's totally how my brain works. Like I learn so well in metaphors, and this just really like reassured that and gave me a lot of inspiration. So I'm very excited. Update. Apparently our power's back on. Like there were no updates on the like power company's website, but I guess it's back on now, so we're going home. And so I'm just gonna like finish some of these poetry ideas that are just like flowing out like fucking hot lava, and then I'm gonna get stuff ready. Cody's in class today until I think 5, so we'll probably leave at 5, but I just want to have everything ready before then. And I know I haven't like finished my book, but I really think I need to end this vlog because it's gonna be fucking 2 hours long. So follow me on Goodreads and wait for my my February wrap up if you want to know like how I feel about Escaping Exodus. And I'm also reading, I also started the audiobook for Beasts of No Nation, which was a book that inspired War Girls, so I'll probably be bringing that up in the War Girls Climate Fiction Book Club live show on the 28th. Also, I finished Friday Black, and I finished We Won't Cancel Us. I don't know if I mentioned either of those, but I really liked them. Friday Black, like I said, was really violent and used violence to illustrate, it's kind of like just how obviously alarming racism is, in a way that kind of turns it so that you see it from another perspective, or it's like very, they write in a very hyperbolic way, but at the same time you're like, this isn't that hyperbolic, you know? It also has a lot of commentary on the structure of capitalism and how that often promotes violence. The title story for Friday Black is about people just getting murdered in a Black Friday sale, and how they just like sweep the bodies away. and the impact that actually has, but also like the like mob mentality that promotes. It's so good. It's really good. I really recommend Friday Black, but it's heavy and violent, so just know that as well. We Will Not Cancel Us was amazing. I think I really like touched on already the main points that have stuck with me, and I think that has also inspired a lot of thoughts for my poetry. One thing also that Andrea Gibson said was, as you're looking at art, to kind of frame it in a way that relates to your own experience to inspire poetry, and I really liked that idea as well. I think, like, obviously I read a lot of books by Black authors and Indigenous authors and just authors of color in general, and in a lot of ways I can't center myself in that, and I shouldn't center myself in that, but there are pieces that I can take, especially about about my work in anti-racism and how I can bring that into my poetry, because like it's gonna hit. Like, there were over 300 people in that workshop, and like so many people were just like, I'm here because Andrea Gibson made a huge impact in my life. And like, that's why I'm there, you know, that's why I love them so much, because of the few times that I've seen them live absolutely changed my life. And the first time I saw one of their videos on YouTube just like inspired me to not just write poetry, but to perform poetry, and that in itself is huge. So yeah, that was really good. I'm gonna leave you with just like a little poem. Let's see. I'm gonna leave you with a poem. The prompt was basically to list your ages. So like down the page you just write like 1, 2, 3, 4, like until you hit the age that you are now. And then in each age you define what love was, or like what love felt like for you in that moment. It's like chronological descriptions of love, but I think how Andrew interpreted that and how I decided to interpret that was like how you viewed love, and often like that's a journey to find out like what that really means, you know? So I'm gonna point the camera at this beautiful blue sky in the suburbs and I'm gonna read you a little poem. Age 1. Playing baby Jesus in the Christmas play. My parents saved the tape. Age 6. Sitting on the chipped white porch, the distance between them says, Mom is moving away for a while. Age 10. The thrill of it leaving as the church burns. Age 16. The blinds staying open as we finger one another for the first time. Age 17. I bring up the Christmas play and they've misplaced it. Age 19. High. So high. I am so high I feel as free as the smoke I exhale into clouds. Age 21. The clouds begin to choke me, he calls me a bitch, and I forget the next day. Age 23. He's gone and they are here, the first time I taste empathy. Age 26. They are born 12 days after Jesus, and I save the tape.